So, just like my Vapor 15 review, it feels like I'm late to the party with the Vapors or the Mercurials again. Apparently, the Postal Service wanted to take 8 years to get these to me, so they've just arrived, and I didn't want to wait any longer to get out and get them on pitch and blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter. Let's get them out of the box, run through the tech, and get some first impressions, some genuine, what do I think these are like as they come out of the box. So, let's do that. Starting off with this. Love that sound. So what we have here is the Blueprint Pack Nike Mercurials. That's what this is all about. It's got the Bowerman on here somewhere, I'm sure it does. There we go. So Bowerman prototype. Bill Bowerman being one of the founders of Nike. And this whole swoosh design, which you'll see across the boot, is from how he used to put the swoosh onto his athlete's boots to reduce weight. He used to just dot on the Nike swoosh to try and keep the weight down. So it's kind of a nice little callback. Essentially, this is just a limited edition colorway for the launch, something that we have seen companies doing more and more. First colorway is limited edition before you get your first inline or mainline release. Let's get into the boots. So, cracking them open, and oh, that's cool. So you can see here, or I don't know if you can see here, I hope you can, that there's actually in the paper the dotted swoosh as well. It's kind of a cool little element. So let's get these out. We don't do unboxings on this channel. This is kind of exciting. So here's the first boot. Here we go. Big Nike Gripknit in here, and that transition, which we'll get into in a second, is really obvious. Oh, I like that. The chevron patterning. It hasn't been really obvious in any of the boots so far, any of the pictures, and that's really cool. I already don't like that. We'll get into that in a minute as well. They've swapped, oh, okay. So this is metal as opposed to plastic. Hold on, let's get some paper out. And these are soft. Oh, that's soft out of the box. I like that. I like how soft that is out of the box. And also, I was one of the people that maybe said that the Gripknit was not for the Mercurial. But this doesn't feel anything like the Gripknit that you're going to get on the GX and the Luna. I'll get a GX, a Luna even. Okay, I'm back. And this is the Phantom Luna 2. And this is the Gripknit on both of these. Now, they're both very soft. I would argue that straight away, this is softer and these are used. There's obviously no texturing, and this is definitely thinner and not nearly as sticky. It's not sticky, it's just a little bit waxy. I think there is enough of a difference here for Nike to definitely get away with having Gripknit on both boots, which I was somewhat critical of beforehand, just as like, I don't think this is a good idea. Anyway, I'm trying to do this as a stream of consciousness kind of thing, and I feel like I'm just going to get pulled in all different directions and sidetracked constantly. But anyway, here's the other boot. Another look at that one. And look, oh, look at that sole plate. That is delicious. So you've got these new 4-foot fins here designed to engage the new air unit. Again, we can get into that. But just from a visual perspective, those are delightful. That is a lovely, lovely looking sole plate. This kind of iridescent finish, the big orange window into where the air zoom unit goes, air zoom written in there. And even in the back here, this kind of chrome looking finish. Oh, that's delightful. Okay, let's get the paper out of the way. And we also have a string bag, which is there. So it's the Bowerman prototype string bag, matches up with everything else. As standard, Nike do a really good string bag. Still kind of finding this kind of cool. I don't do unboxings, so let's get this away. And we don't do unboxings because we don't really care. What we want to look at is the boots. Okay, so let's get the paper out of that. Undo these laces. And just ping that off as well. Interesting that at least it's not plastic that's attached to that anymore. There we go. Okay, so now we have the boots. Now, the thing I was kind of mentioning earlier that I was already not impressed with was the swoosh. So this swoosh is obviously, like I said, inspired by Bill Bowerman and how he used to apply the swoosh to his runners' shoes by adding dots to keep the weight down. Well, all this is visual, because what this is actually doing is damaging the tech that's there, in my opinion. So the rest of the boot is this waxy, somewhat grippy knit material, which, like I say, definitely not as sticky, not in hand, and I would imagine not in feet, we'll put them on feet in a minute, as what you're going to get on the GX2. But this area here, and this is a problem that comes up again and again, this is purely aesthetic and there is no grip available on this area. This is a fully slick area of the Nike swoosh, which is disappointing. It's like, put it on some way else or don't put it on at all. I realize that's not like a major contact zone up here, but you've created this amazing Gripknit. Why ruin it by sticking a non-grippy swoosh graphic over the top of it? Exactly the same with the swoosh on this side. And then speaking of materials having different feelings, so we've got the Gripknit on the top and we have the Atom Knit around here. So the Atom Knit is essentially a fly knit that's been compressed and heated to create a thinner, lighter version of fly knit. So it's supposed to have all the kind of structure, some of the pliability, but be much lighter and interesting. And you know what? It's an interesting place where the transition is. I would have somewhat expected the transition to be further back, because this is absolutely still in the contact zone. So you're going to make contact with like an instep pass with the Atom Knit, and maybe the Atom Knit and the Gripknit simultaneously. So that could be interesting as to how that feels on feet, as if there is a problem maybe with two different textures, or if it's actually going to be really handy to have that less textured instep material with the Atom Knit, and whether Nike have even thought about that. So interesting. Across to the top, we've got the Flyknit lace covering, or the Flyknit one piece up here. Now that also makes no sense to me whatsoever. So Nike have made a big deal out of the fact that this is 3 layers in the upper rather than 5. So the previous generation, I threw it at the beginning, didn't I? Need the previous generation boot. This one will do. So we have the Vapor 15 with the Vaporposit Plus material, and there is 5 layers to this Vaporposit Plus that make it up. Nike have made a big deal out of this only being 3 layers, so it being thinner, which, just in hand, based on how thin, pliable, flexible, don't think I've made a big enough deal about how soft this is out of the box. This is incredible, and seemingly, therefore, the 3 layers versus 5 is absolutely working. But one of the layers that they've managed to get rid of is the polyurethane top coating. So there's like almost always a plastic top coating across these kind of mesh style boots, or even, knit boots, textile boots, that's the word I'm looking for. And it's primarily to protect the upper and also to give you some weather resistance, some water resistance. However, you don't need that with Gripknit, because Gripknit is inherently hydrophobic. It works automatically. You add water to this, it repels the water, it's going to keep your feet dry a lot better. It's going to be better in adverse weather. Unless, let's see if we can just undo the laces here. Here we go. Unless you have giant bloody holes down the middle of the boot. That's, like, I get that it can't all be Gripknit, but there's holes there. So the hydrophobic properties have been undone in one material. It's always going to be the case to a degree. Again, look at the previous generation. It's much, much thicker, that Flyknit through the middle there, but it's still not got the top coating on it. I just find it interesting just because it is a layer that they have removed in order to add the Gripknit. But let us continue on. So we've had the Atom Knit, we've had the Gripknit, which I am pretty confident with its 3 layers. The layer on the inside is the lining, and I am 99.9% sure this is the Avail Q lining. It's exactly the same lining that they introduced on the Vapor 14 with the original Vaporposit. There's a big breakdown of how that boot was built, and Avail Q lining was part of the multiple layers of Vaporposit, and I'm confident that they've kept it for this. So you've still got an Avail Q lining, it's a few years old. You've got Gripknit that's been taken from the Phantom, but I can't stress this enough. I think this Gripknit, in terms of the feeling, you can even see it. Like, and it's not just that this has ridges and this doesn't. These feel significantly different. They're going to respond differently. This is thinner, this is softer. I'm very excited about the upper on this particular boot, and I've lost my train of thought entirely. This is what I get for trying to do kind of one take unboxings when I don't normally do unboxings. Back in a second with a train of thought. I don't know where I was going, so we're going to look at the outsole, which, as I say, looks incredible. They've gone back to the chevron bladed studs. I would love to show you the previous gen studs. However, I have only SG boots in the previous generation, but they were these tri-star studs designed for multi-directional movement, a little bit more for braking, not inherently mercurial. And the chevron bladed stud is very, very synonymous with the mercurial line. A lot of people wanted that back. You now have that back with this super aggressive stud shape and stud pattern, and I really, really like the looks of it. I love how high up these 2 studs here are. It's going to be super, super aggressive, and I really, really like it. However, while I was making a little cut there, I had a look at it, and that is average. There is an average amount of springback on that boot, and while you've added these super aggressive chevron bladed studs through the forefoot, and you've obviously got the blades in the rear giving you this super aggressive traction, you don't seem to have that same amount of snapback and responsiveness that you would want from a mercurial outsole. I would argue that even kind of gives up. So that's okay, and then it gets to a certain point and it's like the whole thing just loses all structure and just bends in on itself. Interesting. I would say that is less structured and has less springback than the previous gen. Maybe. It's very, very similar. Now, the reason for that has to be, in my opinion, these brand new forefoot fins that I mentioned, which are designed to engage with the ground more and therefore engage you and the air zoom unit, which has been redesigned. So, you know what? Let's get the insole out. We'll get to that. And we'll have a look at the air zoom unit. I'll see if I can show it on this camera. If I can't, I'll stick the GoPro in there and have a look. But there's a brand new air zoom unit that runs all the way down the boot. It's the same kind of 2/3 length as the previous gen, but the previous generation was separated out into little pockets of air zoom. This is one continuous air zoom pocket on the new one, and these fins are designed to engage that more. So I said on the previous gen that you wouldn't get a huge amount of kind of propulsion and push off. It just added, maybe you felt a little more responsive, maybe you enjoyed kind of feeling that little bit more bouncy, but there's nothing adding there for propulsion or pushing you off or trying to make you faster. I think this is designed to kind of address that issue. Will it? Won't it? We don't know yet. But I love the idea and it looks fantastic. And the full air zoom airbag running all the way through the front 2/3 of the boot here, I think has to be an improvement over the little air zoom pockets. And you know what? It feels good in hand. As I say, we will get these on feet. However, Now, I was expecting this because we spoke about this on the Football Boot Hour podcast with my co-host Andrew from the Lockhart Boot blog, who got these in hand a long time before I did. And he's not wrong. So this is the insole from the brand new Mercurial Vapor. And it's not good. Like, big brands don't generally have great insoles. They're just a thin piece of foam. They don't really do a lot. They're not particularly adding much in the way of comfort. This obviously has the cutout where the air zoom unit goes. You can see how far that goes along. But it's just, it feels of a lower quality than normal, especially this top layer. There's nothing there. There's no kind of like a synthetic suede lining or anything like that to try and help keep your feet in place. For a boot of this price, it's not really good enough to have this as an insole, in my opinion. And you could probably hear it there. Hold on. Can you hear that? It's kind of glue. It's all sticky on the, just slightly around the toe, around the heel. Just doesn't, I don't know, I just don't think it looks great. It's not a great look for a boot of this price to have something that is so cheap in here. And while we're talking about it, let's pop this back in. And I kind of noticed this as I was messing around with the laces. I feel the same way about the laces. These feel very thin. Now, you could argue that they're trying to do like a weight loss thing, and they do have the very cool kind of reflective element to them. I don't know if you can see that, but they're very thin, very, very thin. And again, it doesn't exude quality, despite the fact that the upper, this particular section of the upper, this Gripknit that I can't quite get over, like this is mind-blowing in hand good. This waxy feeling, the way even all the chevrons come to a point. There's like a little chevron design. I love it. It looks great. The atom knit feels really, really premium. The outsole looks incredible. There's a couple of areas there where I think it looks like it's letting down the price that you pay. Like areas where you might think a corner can be cut because people won't notice. Boot Wizard is here. I'll notice, damn it. Now, let's have a look at the heel while we're in here, and you can see that it is updated from the previous generation, and we've got this kind of memory foam in the back now, which feels delightful, feels really, really nice, even if the material itself doesn't feel like it's going to maybe grab onto my socks as much as I would like to, but it seems great, and definitely an upgrade from the previous generation. There is no doubt there is an upgrade from what we got here to what we get here, and I am very, very pleased about that. It does, and again, this is something we discussed on the podcast, it does strike me as being quite a spacious heel, quite a lot of room in there. Now, I don't have the widest heel in the world, so that could be an issue when we get them on feet, and it even looks wide when we look at the boots like that, but that could have something to do with this giant air branding that runs around the boot. That's potentially making it look wider than it actually is. I don't love the air branding. I've never loved the air branding. I think it's just too big, too bold, kind of, it's ostentatious. And that's kind of what the Mercurial is. But I think if you got rid of that and you just had this kind of almost whitey cream kind of boot with just the blue swoosh, the logoing and the kind of the prototype style handwriting here, the Bowerman up here, I think that would have just looked so much more elegant and classy. I may be showing my age here, but the air element here I don't love, but that's just a visual thing. Like it's all preference. Makes no difference. All right, I think that's enough on hand in boxing. Let's get them on feet. If you have any questions up to this point, put them down in the comments. Of course, get subscribed to the channel, like the video. It is muchly appreciated. Muchly is not a word. On feet we go. Okay, let's get these on feet. So, first up. So I bought these in my normal size, which is a Nike US 8. Which is a UK 7, I believe. Let's get those on. Oh, hello. Oh, hello. Just realised while doing this, along with an oh hello, I've essentially stolen Noah Kavanagh's entire review format. Noah, I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. I'm about 2 oh my days away from a complete rip-off here. Sorry, Noah. It's a one-off. I'm sorry. I'll go back to my own shtick after this one. But back to the boots. These, oh, that's immediately comfortable. Immediately comfortable. However, I can also immediately feel that the heel isn't quite, it's not quite there. It's not quite working for me. Let's get the other boot on and hope there's not too much shadow with my stupid lighting. Let's get this one on. I think there is, isn't there? Okay. Let's move the light. Oh, that's weird. I feel like somebody's worn my right boot and not my left boot, which genuinely could be the case. It'd be surprising for a new boot, but you know when you go into stores, someone's tried on the right foot like 100 times. Okay, that feels better in the heel too. Let's just tighten up that other boot. Maybe I just did the laces badly. With the laces here, and also with the way the Gripknit is built, be very careful when doing these up. The lace holes don't seem massively reinforced. So I would say if you're tightening laces, try and pull out, not up. There doesn't seem a huge amount of reinforcement around those lace holes, and the thin laces could put a lot of pressure on there. You just want to be careful you don't tear the upper, which is basically all the lace holes are. They're just punched holes in the upper. Okay, that's better. Right. How are we feeling? Okay, start off at 10. Length, absolutely ideal. Absolutely doing the job for me. As I say, so this is what I would normally try in a Nike boot to start with. US 8, and I think that this is pretty much bang on perfect. There's a tiny bit of room at the end of my toe, but nothing drastic, and it's exactly how I would want that to be. I definitely can't go half a size down. I don't even think it's a full quarter size where I've got the bit of room, so that's good. And I find that for me, I am always like, I'm more closely to an in-between size with Nike than I am with things like Adidas. So that's working for me. Grip socks I'm wearing today, by the way, are Technigrip grip socks. If you want to pick up a pair, you can do so by hitting the link down in the top pinned comment, or check out my review on the Technigrip grip socks and go from there as well. It does help support the channel, so it is massively appreciated. Width-wise, now I noticed when we were doing the actual unboxing, there's a lot of material. If you were to spread that material out, there's a lot of material there. But on feet, I don't feel like the boot is too wide for me, which I do feel with, like, for example, the GX or the Luna. I think that there's a bit too much material there, and I have some weird kind of bobble points and things like that. But with these fit me really nicely. I think especially through this area, but there is a little bit, yeah, there's a little bit of excess material right underneath, right here, right underneath my my arch. Obviously, foot shape plays a big part in that, but I think part of the issue is the transition between the two materials. This being such a different material and not being as soft, I think that creates a point where it just creates a tiny bit of dead space under there. But you can see on the whole, that follows my foot shape perfectly, and there's very little extra room anywhere across this boot. And that applies to both feet. If anything, my left foot seems to fit this a lot better, but there's barely anything. And like I say, it's just that little bit under the arch. Now, I don't have high arches or anything like that, so it's a little bit surprising, but I don't think that's going to bother me. As for stud pressure, anything like that, now I'm on a concrete floor with just a bit of turf underneath, on top of it at the moment, and I'm feeling a little bit of stud pressure right here on this stud right here. I'm getting a little bit of stud pressure, but it's nothing drastic. It's overall very comfortable, and I think I can definitely feel that air zoom unit more than I did on the previous generation. Speaking of comparisons to the previous generation, one of the things the previous gen did absolute best was provide lockdown. And I just think these aren't going to provide that level of lockdown, but it is surprisingly good. It feels good. Obviously, I need to get out, do some big cuts, some sprints, things like that, for get an actual opinion of the lockdown, the responsiveness, things like that. But out of the box, pretty good. Cannot complain. However, things to complain about, I'm not 100% feeling the heel. I think I'm going to get a little bit of heel slippage right down the bottom, and I don't feel like I'm fully locked in to this heel. I do think it's too wide for me. And then we get in, there is a bit of room in here. Obviously, this is kind of a bit loose, so you get something down, but there's a little bit of room in here. I'm not getting wrapped around enough in this area. So the back is not terrible. The foam is actually doing a really nice job around the back here. It's very comfortable, very, very comfortable. And then in here, I just feel like everything needs to be sculpted round a little bit more. But it's not awful. It's not something that would make me reject the boot. I have to say though, that the Gripknit is so soft and so malleable and just molds around your foot so nicely, and it genuinely feels so different to what you're going to get from the GX lines, the Lunar and the GT. It's thinner. This is going to feel one-to-one on the ball. I'm very excited to get these on a pitch, very excited. And even the Atom Knit, there's a clear transition point right here, like on the boot and on the other side. You cannot feel that. You have no indication that there's a transition on your foot. There might be when you hit a ball, but there is no indication that there is a transition. And, oh, these are comfortable. This is a comfortable boot. It's accommodating. It fits round my foot really nicely. It's a beautiful wrap. I think my only issue right now, that little bit of stud pressure, I think is absolutely going to go away on a nicer surface, especially if it's on grass. My only issue right now is I'm feeling a little bit in the heel, like I'm not locked in enough, and there's a little bit of kind of pressure that's going to happen from sliding. And I think that's because the heel is quite simply too wide. But on the whole, oh, ladies and gentlemen, these are comfy, and you can feel the air zoom unit. The Gripknit is so good. I'm eating my words. I take it back. The Gripknit on a Mercurial is a win. Do it again. It's different enough. It's beautiful. And without having obviously gone out and played in these, can you even see me anymore? Probably not. Hold on. Okay, back to this camera for final thoughts. And there's stuff I didn't even cover there, and I imagine I've been waffling for like 20-30 minutes at this point. But I really like the fit. I don't find it too wide. I don't really have too many issues. I find it incredibly comfortable. This Gripknit upper is so soft, and I'm already a little bit kind of blown away by that and how good it is and what the change has done. A little bit of an issue with the heel, I think will get worse as I wear them out on pitch. The outsole I love. I think it looks great. I definitely want to see how this kind of less stiff, less responsive outsole works with these super aggressive studs. It's kind of bit of one, bit of another. Do they cancel each other out, or do they make for an odd combination? Get subscribed, the full review is coming. And then you've got, for example, even the fit through, this is almost like a perfect amount of like height through the toe box. It's low enough and pointy enough that you can feel very, very fast and pointed, but at the same time, it's not like super low and it's going to squash down your toes and force you to adjust your sizing. I think the sizing's pretty spot on. This, for me, is a boot that if you're considering trying it, do it. Absolutely do it. Go and try this boot. I think it's going to be fantastic. And like I say, full review is coming and I'm so looking forward to getting these out on the pitch to find out maybe if those flaws that I've pointed out are big enough to kind of derail the boot, or if those big pluses like the Gripknit are big enough to make this better than the F50s, better than the Ultra Carbons. It's big statements, but I really like these on feet. I always consider, how does it fit your foot? And despite the fact I'm saying this has got a lot of width, and I think it's going to be good for people with wide feet, I have a average width foot. Still working for me. Apart from maybe the heel. But, Gripknit, baby. Gripknit on a Merc. I'm sold. Let's do it. Do it again.